You know, I had to set the vibes, you know, make sure they right for y'all. But what's good, family? Welcome. Welcome to the very first crash course. This is called Night School with Blaze. And tonight we're doing a crash course in the tent. We in the tent with it. Yes, indeed. This is gonna be a crash course on unity, oneness for beginners. You know, reason I'm doing this is because, you know, this is very important for people that's on the journey of like expanding their consciousness, spirituality. Understanding the concept of oneness and unity is very important. Some of you very well may be well versed and understand this, and then some people might just be having a little bit of trouble conceptualizing it. So that's what this is for. I got the whiteboard for y'all. I got a brand new pack of markers, and we're about to get active. Okay. So we're about to get into the basics of oneness and why it's important in our lives for our, you know, our vitality. Okay? So we're gonna start out. We'll start it off like this, right? Okay, so what is oneness, right? When we talk about oneness or unity, oneness is our natural state. So let's start it off by thinking of it like this. So when we talk about oneness and unity, right, what you have to understand is I am you and you are me. We all come from the same source. That makes us one all together. You break it down to to the smallest unit, right? You may perceive yourself to be in your body and me in mine. But when you keep on breaking it down, our bodies are made up of cells. Well, let's go down the line. We go from the body, then we're made up of organs. Organs are made up of tissues. The tissues are then made up of cells. The cells are then made up of organelles. These organelles are made up of molecules. These molecules are made up of atoms, right? And then these atoms are just nothing but pure energy. And that's what we are. We're nothing but pure energy, okay? So if you break it down to the smallest unit of measurement, everything is just atoms and energy. Everything. So everything, that means everything is made up of the same exact substance. You, me, this whiteboard, this phone I'm recording this off of, everything is one. Okay? Everything is made up of the same substance. And that's the only way that things can come into existence, is if they come out of, basically, that's the only way that things can be created out of the same, which is out of the same substance. Energy. Everything is energy. And we're all energy. Just energy has taken form. Okay? Let's take the seed analogy, right? You have one apple, right? This apple has seeds in it, right? And so you pick that seed out of it. So you take one seed and you plant it in the ground. Just one seed. From this seed, right, grows an apple tree. Apple tree, right? The apple tree blossoms. We have apples blooming off of this one apple tree. Then these apples fall to the ground. Then somebody comes and eats the apples. The animals come and eat the apples, and they shit the seeds out, or they spit them out, however they spit them out, and then it regrows, and then we return to this part, right? That's what we call a cycle. And so when we talk about oneness, all these apples, right? Mind you, this is going to repeat another cycle and have a whole bunch of more different apples grow off of another tree, right? But it all started with one seed. That means that the seed has basically nothing but limitless potential, infinite potential. Just from one seed, there's infinite potential to keep continuously expanding and growing forever, for infinity. And that's what we are. We are the seed of limitless potential that keeps expanding forever, for eternity. That's how our consciousness continues to expand, and that's how we continue to grow and evolve. Okay? So, we live in a world, right? We live in a world where everything seems to be, or appears to be, separate from each other. It may appear that my body is separate from yours, and that this whiteboard is separate from this stick of Palo Santo, but that's not the case. Remember, everything is made up of energy. Everything is made up of energy. All energy comes from the same source, right? And you can call this source God, you can call it the universe, you can call it whatever you want to call it. But the pure fact is that this source is nothing but energy. Energy follows certain laws and spiritual laws that we might have to do more crash courses later on to really get deep into the spiritual laws of everything and how this universe works. But nonetheless, we all come from the same source, which is energy at its most basic level. And energy is constantly expanding and growing and looking to create, basically. So, that being said, back to what I was saying, we live in a world where everything seems to be separate, right? You may believe this whiteboard to be separate from this stick of Palo Santo, my body to be different from yours. I mean, separate from yours. But that's an illusion. See, it's an illusion that there's even space between my hand and this phone, because everything is interconnected. Right now I'm sitting on the ground, the same earth plane that you're probably sitting on, that you're connected to. You see how that works? How gravity keeps us all grounded to the same plane, and we all have our thoughts on the mental plane, which is connected all across the same field. All of our thoughts are connected to the same field. That's how you can be thinking something and then pick up on somebody else's thoughts and be like, oh, how did you know I was thinking that shit? It's just my intuition. That's how intuition works, because it travels across a field through the air. We're all breathing the same air. All of us are connected. Our consciousness is connected. We're breathing through the same air, sharing, recycling it, right? There's no such thing as separation. That's only an illusion. So I hope that's enough breakdown for you on this topic of unity and oneness, right? Now, there's a reason why every spiritual doctrine, every religion pretty much points to a certain source, right? In Christianity, there's God, the Heavenly Father, right? And everybody is a child of God, and God created everything, and whoop-de-woo, that's the Christian story. Basically, that's the story of energy, basically the story of creation, there being a force, a spiritual force that creates everything. And everything came from this God, which is this energy, and everything is all one. That's why we're all children of the same source. We talk about Allah in Islam. Allah is the source of all creation, where everything came from. That means everything came from the same source. You talk about Buddhism, and then Buddhism is about, it's kind of, so you talk about Buddhism emphasizes nirvana, which is being a place of enlightenment and oneness, unity, the true self, the true source of everything. That is the truth, that everything is one. So don't for a second believe that anything is separate from each other. Everything is connected. All events that are happening coinciding with each other. Everything that unfolds is unfolded in connection to each other. Cause and effect. Everything happens for a reason, right? So I hope that's enough info for you on this crash course on unity, because everything is, it's connected. We all connected. And you got to understand this. Why is it important for you to understand this? Because when you begin to have the right outlook on life and stop looking at everything as separate from yourself, you'll begin to treat yourself better. Treating you good is treating myself good. And when you realize that what you do to others is what you do, and when you realize that whatever you do unto others, you're doing unto yourself, you'll start to make changes in your life for the better. These add to your values that can help raise your frequency and raise your vibration. And once you raise your frequency and raise your vibration, you're on your way to creating the life that you want to live, and growing spiritually and expanding your consciousness, which should be the main goal for all of us. It is the goal of humanity to continue to raise and expand consciousness. That's our sole purpose for being here. And there's many infinite ways of us doing that. That's why we all have our own unique expressions. But anyways, I'm gonna leave it at that. Okay? So stay up, keep ascending, and I'm gonna catch you in the next one.